Hello, welcome back to the Lick of the Week videos. Recently I posted a short 2-minute video clip of me playing and singing a popular bluegrass song, and it was kind of in reference to a thread somebody had posted where they were asking about some advice about learning to play and sing. And so I just posted the video to show that you can do it, and there are a lot of great players that do it. I'm just some, local bluegrass guy here in North Carolina that's been doing it for a long time. So I know it can be done. I've heard it done by great players. There's some people mentioned in that thread on the Hangout that are, just fantastic lead singers who can play and sing at the same time. But even if you're just the general banjo player, playing in jams and local bands and stuff, singing is something that people kind of shy away from sometimes when they're a banjo player, because they think it's really hard to play and sing at the same time. Well, it can be really hard to play and sing the banjo at the same time if you're trying to do some of the advanced licks and things I was doing in that video. So that's kind of like an extreme example of playing a lot of really active backup licks and just licks in general while you're playing. As I stated in that other video, it's probably not a good idea to try to play all that and sing at the same time. If you listen to somebody who is really good at it, like a professional player like Alan O'Brien is a prime example of somebody who's great at singing lead and playing some tasteful stuff around his vocals. So I thought this would be a great topic for the Lick of the Week, and I've received probably 30 or 40 emails this week just saying, that would be a great topic. Would you consider doing it? So there was another video I was going to do to wrap up a previous series that I started, but I decided I would just forgo that for a while and just do this topic. So if you're going to jams and you feel like, it'd be really cool if I could sing, even just harmony with the lead singer in the jam or in the band I'm in, but I just quit playing altogether when I sing, and I'd like to be a little more up to par with doing something while I sing. So today I'll just start this new video series we'll call Playing and Singing. The most accessible approach, I guess you could say, to playing and singing is to provide rhythm while you sing. Now, depending on the band situation you're in or the jammers, you may not always need to vamp chords. Vamping is probably the most basic thing you can do. But if you're learning to play and sing at the same time, it's a good idea to vamp the chords as just a starting point, because this gets you in sync with the rhythm. So I'm going to pick just a standard song, like some 3-chord song like 9-Pound Hammer, which is a song I like to use. It's a real popular jam song. So what I'm going to do is vamp the rhythm and try to sing over it. Now here's the big thing you have to watch out for. This is what makes playing and singing so hard, I think. You can't alter your vocals to fit your rhythm, and you can't always alter your rhythm to fit your vocals. What do I mean by that? That means you can't square off rolls, you can't stop in the middle of a roll or stop in the middle of a lick, and then you can't cobble together bits and pieces of phrases on the banjo that correspond to the exact phrasing of your voice. It's really easy to fall into that trap, and when you hear somebody's playing backup, you'll notice that their voice can be syncopating differently than the rhythm of the banjo playing, which is kind of like doing this at the same time. Your head, your hand, and they want to do the same thing, but you have to train one to do something other than the other hand is doing. Kind of the same thing. You need to get in a rhythmic groove with both your voice and your banjo playing, but you can't make one an exact mold of the other, because let's face it, playing banjo rolls and licks does not correspond to the way you would sing all the time, unless you want your singing to sound like you're trying to sing every note of your licks, which doesn't work. So let's take a simple example today in this video of just 9-Pound Hammer, and I'm going to sing the song and let my voice just syncopate however it wants to, but keep a steady rhythm going. Ready? It's a 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy for my size, honey, for my size. Well, roll, buddy, with your load of coal, how can I roll? right off the bat, here's something you have to notice about the vocals. My vocals were not what I call metronomic. I let the vocals kind of do this. They ride that beat kind of like a surfer on a wave, if you think of it as an analogy. You don't stay right on the top of the wave. You go to the bottom, the middle, the top. You ride the wave. So when you're singing, don't get locked into your vocals sounding like you're banjo playing again, like I mentioned earlier. Or you will get this. It's a 9-pound hammer. It's a little too heavy. Honey, for my size. Honey, for my size. Well, roll on, buddy, with load of coal. Please don't sing and play like that because it's bad. Because it has no life. You know, the banjo vamps in this case are just providing the rhythm. Even the vamps can get a little syncopated. But again, that's more advanced this. You know, making your hand do something besides pat. Maybe it's patting and going over different parts of your head. But when you add syncopation to your rhythm, like your vamps, that makes it a little harder. Always start simply and work your way up. So if you wanted to play the banjo, instead of just dropping your hands and not playing the banjo, let's say in a jam situation or even a band, every time you play and sing, you don't have to completely stop playing. But now there's value in that. Sometimes a friend of mine, John Steele, mentioned the other day that, you know, a lot of those old classic recordings of bluegrass banjo players, when they sing, they would step over into that one mic and they would sing and not play at all. They'd let like the fiddle or somebody else, or maybe all the instruments would drop out, and that's cool. But what we're talking about in the videos here is if you do want to play and you think it's appropriate, there's no reason you can't. So you can decide, I'm not going to play at all while I sing because I just feel like it sounds better when I don't try to play the banjo and I sing my harmony part. And if you're a lead singer, you might think, well, it sounds better if I can concentrate on the lyrics. But then there will be situations where you do need to play the banjo and sing, either lead or harmony, because it's appropriate and that's what your group wants. So you can see it a bunch of different ways, and none of them are wrong. So let me see if I can syncopate my rhythm a little differently. Well, I'm going to take the rhythm up a notch. So instead of just counting 1, 2, real straight metronomic beats, my voice is going to be syncopating and my rhythm is going to be syncopated. It's a 9-pound hammer. It's a little too heavy for my side. Honey, for my side. Well, roll, buddy, with your load of coal. How can I roll when the wheels won't go? Okay, even though that's vamping, if you try and you try to feel those, they're two completely different kind of syncopation. So again, it's the head and the stomach padding, rubbing thing. That's not a good way to start, but I'm just showing you even with basic things like vamping, it can get really rhythmically complicated. So what the bottom line for all this is your sense of rhythm, which is one of the most important things you'll ever learn as a musician, not just a banjo player. Your sense of rhythm gets better as you progress. You're able to divide the beats up into all these quirky little syncopated units, and you can independently, just like your right and your left hand. If you think about the right and the left hand when you play the banjo, the right hand is not doing the same things as the left hand. They have to learn to function together. So you already got a little of this going, when you play the banjo. But when you're talking about singing and playing, even just vamps, that requires a different part of your brain, I guess, to think about the words and use your voice. So start with just real straight timing on the banjo, do some vamps. You don't even have to move around much. And see if you can sing over that, but don't let your singing become real, it's a 9-pound hammer, because it will sound dead as a hammer when you try to make your voice fit the rhythm of your vamps. It's awful. And that's really not your goal. So you have to practice this, and it may be just phrase at a time. Maybe you have to do one phrase at a time. It's a 9-pound hammer, hammer. Try different things. try leaving a measure differently. So if you know you're going from G to C in the song, try to syncopate with your voice so that you fudge a little bit on when you leave that measure. So let me try. It's a 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy. Hold out a note, too heavy. That's syncopating your voice, coming into the measure not so square, I guess you might say. And then as you get better at this, try to slowly add more to your vamps. So you don't have to do really complicated syncopated rhythms, but you can do things like divide the beats up. It's a 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy, honey for my size, honey for my size. So I'm playing part of the G here, part of the G there. It's still pretty metronomic. And then the next step would be, let me add a little syncopation, maybe divide the beats up into different units. It's a 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy. Maybe doing different durations of amps, like 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and they'll add a little subtle bounce, whatever you like to call it, a little swing to your rhythm. But then your voice, again, don't let your voice match that unless you decide you think it's cool. Now, don't let me dissuade you from doing it if you think that sound. It's a 9-pound hammer, it's a little too heavy. I mean, if you decide you want to match them up, that could be cool if you have a reason to do that. But generally speaking, it gets you in trouble if you're new to this, if you start letting the banjo rhythm patterns dictate your vocal patterns. Not a good idea. So start with vamps, start with simple songs that have simple changes, normally even measured songs where you don't have multiple changes inside a measure. That's kind of easier to do. And just try to concentrate on singing a standard vocal line, something pretty simple over that rhythm, not making both rhythms syncopate the same so that it doesn't sound so mechanical. And just keep doing that. In the next video, we'll look at maybe trying to do rolls and vamps together over the changes while you sing the vocal line, and maybe I can give you some insights on that. So be looking for that next video, and I appreciate it. Have fun.